A lot of people come to Centerstone Group confusing us as a law firm. Centerstone Group is not a law firm. And it's very important to understand that we're not a law firm. A lot of people in a timeshare exit situation think they need an attorney in order to get out of the timeshare. And an attorney can be a good idea. The pros as it relates to hiring a timeshare attorney is they have the ability to file lawsuits. The communication methodologies that they have mean that when a timeshare attorney is involved, then attorneys only talk to attorneys. So as soon as a timeshare attorney is involved, then you're going to be dealing with the timeshare company's law firm or their general counsel, because a regular employee that doesn't have a law degree is not going to be communicating with the attorney. So you're going to be automatically at a higher level of communication. And those things can be a positive depending on where you're at in the exit process. Probably one of the most expensive, risky ways of getting out of a timeshare is the legal process. Generally, it's always a good idea before filing a lawsuit or before, in the case of timeshare, petitioning for an arbitration hearing, that you try and work out the problems between yourself and the timeshare company first. Courts don't look kindly on lawsuits that are just launched where there's been no communication between the parties. They haven't tried to resolve the problems themselves. They've just jumped right to the legal system and let's go duke it out in the courts. That's not ideal, and it can be very, very expensive. Therein lies some of the cons of working with an attorney. Attorneys are expensive. You're talking $100 to $500 an hour easily. And timeshare exits are going to take many, 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 many hours. Attorneys generally are in the business of charging hours. That's how they make money. And so they're not necessarily going to have an incentive to find easier solutions. They're going to say, well, let's sue them, right? Well, of course, right? They're in the business of accumulating hours to, fight cases. But it seldom makes sense for someone who owes a timeshare company $30,000 to spend $90,000 in legal fees trying to get out of the timeshare. That doesn't make a lot of sense. And it really isn't the proper way to solve our problems. It should always start with a communication between the parties saying, hey, we have a problem with this timeshare. Let me explain to you what the problem is and give them an opportunity to do the right thing and solve that problem. Now, I can tell you from years in the timeshare industry and doing timeshare exit, it's highly unlikely that after one letter, the timeshare company is going to say, oh, well, as long as you put it that way, I'm going to go ahead and just let you out of the contract. And here, let me give you all your money back. That's not going to happen. There are times when a timeshare lawyer at a certain timing in the process may become necessary, but it should never start at the attorney level. It should never start there. It should always start where there's communication between the timeshare owner and the timeshare company or the timeshare company's employees about what has transpired, trying to find a resolution between themselves. Now, many of our files will end up going to an attorney. Sometimes it has to go to that level, especially when someone owes six figures to a timeshare company. They're going to dig in pretty hard, and maybe an attorney is going to be necessary. But to be able to show that you took all of these other steps to try and resolve this has huge impact if it gets to the point of arbitration or a lawsuit, to show that, hey, the adult in this situation was the timeshare owner. Look at how they tried to resolve the problem. Look at the communication. Look at how they dealt with this in a mature and rational manner. And the timeshare company was immature and irrational. That's going to bode well if it comes to the point where an arbitration or in rare cases, a lawsuit comes around. Having that ability to say, look at all that we tried to do to resolve this. They didn't want to come to the table. They're not reasonable. I'm reasonable. And then you're going to have much better results. So the pros, very aggressive. They can bring lawsuits and create problems for timeshare companies. The cons, extremely expensive, typically not going to make sense. It's going to show a pattern of not trying to resolve the problem through adult behavior and adult communication.